Hello and welcome to the fourth part of my upgrade to a NAS video series. What I will be going over in this part is this drive. This drive is the Seagate Barracuda 7200.10, which is a 500GB drive that the seller threw in as part of a bundle deal with the NAS. Now what I'll be doing in this video is going over the drive itself, its specifications, its performance, and just how does it really fare through the testing that I've put it through, both using it in my desktop and in my NAS. So with all of that said, let's jump into the main part of the video. And here's that drive that they also provided. How do you open this thing? It is just a clip. Oh, like that, right. Judging by the PCB design, it looks like it's quite an old hard drive, but I don't know. So what we have here is we have a Seagate Barracuda 7200 RPM at 500GB, which is what was advertised. When was it built? Manufactured. I can't see on there any date. Oh, there's a date code. So I'll probably need to go and look that up for when it was manufactured. I know second-hand hard drives are not recommended to be used, and I don't intend on using this in the NAS. The ones I intend on using in the NAS are my two Western Digital Reds down there. This hard drive has seen better conditions. Oh, there we go. So I'm going to go and clean both the NAS and the hard drive. What I might do is take the PCB off, give it a looking over, and then put it back on. I know what I'm doing. I've done that plenty of times before with other hard drives and they still work fine. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that, I think. So I thought it would now be time to plug in this 500GB Seagate Barracuda drive and see what's on it. I have cleaned the drive up. I've also cleaned the PCB, taken the PCB off and cleaned the little connection interfaces between the actual PCB and like the hard drive output bit. I also gave the PCB a good look over for any potential like faults or anything, and everything looks fine regarding the PCB. So now I'm going to plug it into my hard drive dock. You've done it again, George. I'm in the middle of recording and you've just come and flopped over on the floor. But this is a perfect example on what I will use this hard drive dock for when the NAS is up and running. I will simply use it to connect to laptops and notebooks and stuff that's here. Okay, so let's plug it in. Okay, it's now in, so let's go ahead and turn it on. Is it supposed to make that noise? That didn't sound very good, to be honest. Right, I can hear the platter doing stuff. Right, it's just coming up as a blank local disk at the moment, which is that one. If I go ahead and go into disk management, then we can see that drive is there. So yeah, it is 500GB. If I just zoom in up there, then the drive that I've just plugged in is the second one down. I would click on it, but for some reason I can only click on the letter. It doesn't actually highlight everything across. So what I'm now going to do is go and download Crystal Disk Info, and then I can look at the specs of the hard drive, so I'll be back with that. To avoid messing about recording the screen, I have taken a print screen of Crystal Disk Info version 7.5.1 64-bit as seen in the top left hand corner, and I've just cropped it out and put it onto a black background that is the same resolution of the video. Now I won't read all of the information out as there is a lot of information to cover, and honestly the majority of it I don't fully understand myself, but if you want to read it, feel free to pause the video and then read it in your own time. So as you can see here, I have the drive plugged in via a SATA 6GB per second. I would plug it in via SATA 3 as that's what the drive runs in, but my motherboard only has SATA 6, and it really doesn't matter because SATA 6 is backwards compatible with SATA 3. And the reason why I've plugged it in is because I'm now going to do a speed test on the drive using Crystal Disk Mark. As with Crystal Disk Info earlier, I have taken another print screen, but this time of Crystal Disk Mark, version 6.0.0 64-bit, which can again be seen in the top left hand corner. Now for this test, I ran 9 passes of 32GB on the G drive, and that's a letter I've assigned to the drive that is the main focus of this video. So regarding the sequential speeds, on this sequential read we are looking at 75.81 megabytes per second, and on the sequential write we are looking at 80.64 megabytes per second. But as for the other speeds, again, feel free to pause the video and read them in your own time. I will now explain to you and show you why I have called that hard drive Geiger counter. What I'm going to be doing now is I will be transferring 10 gigabytes worth of data onto this hard drive, and I've got the camera set up close to the hard drive because I want the microphone to pick up the audio because it literally sounds like a Geiger counter. The audio you will be hearing will be the raw audio recording. It's not going to be edited or enhanced in any way. So I'm now just going to go ahead and start the transfer when my computer wakes up. Okay, I've copied the data and I'm now going to paste it. As it is a hard drive, it will take some time to copy those 10 gigabytes, but hopefully you have heard enough of the hard drive, and I hope you now understand why I've appropriately named that drive Geiger counter. So this is the Seagate Barracuda 7200.10. 500 gigabytes, as you can see there, and I looked up the date code. The date code on the drive is 08075, and that means this drive was manufactured on the 21st of August 2007. So as of this recording in 2018, this drive is approaching 11 years old, and by the time you are watching this, it may be 11 years old or even older. For the purpose of this video, I subjected this hard drive to testing for me to report back about how the drive's been and how it's performed. So I put this drive in my desktop for about 2 weeks, just connected it with a regular SATA cable and SATA power, and even though I put it in my desktop, I did not move any irreplaceable data to the drive because it's approaching 11 years old, and honestly I was expecting this drive to fail at any moment. Every time you turn the computer on, or every time the drive were to boot up, I guess you could say, it would make a really kind of concerning grinding noise, which I presume is just a header flicking back and forth as it does its boot up thing. But when it's finished with its whatever it does that makes a grinding noise, it does power on and it seems to work as a drive. But anyway, putting it in my computer, the data that I stored on the drive during those testing weeks was just like program installations and things that I could reinstall if the drive were to fail, so I wasn't putting any irreplaceable data on the drive. Obviously it was slower than more modern hard drives. The technology is going to be older, so in theory, on paper, it would be slower, and in practice it did turn out to be slower. But for those 2 weeks, aside from the noise issues, it seemed to work perfectly fine like any other hard drive would do. So I guess you could say the drive passed at being a hard drive through the testing I put it through. It seemed to work fine, but due to the grinding noise every time you turned it on and the ticking noise when reading and writing data to the drive, and just the fact that it's like 10 going on 11 years old, I would highly not recommend using a drive that's that old and makes those type of noises when reading or writing data and or turning on or off. Now I will just point out the ticking that I'm referring to is the noise that I showed you in the video where it's reading and writing data to the platter. The ticking is not the tick of death that hard drives can suffer from, but as for in my desktop, it seems to work perfectly fine. Now once I'd finished with the hard drive in my desktop, I removed all partitions, all formats, all data from the drive, and then took the drive out to my computer and put it in the NAS because I wanted to do a thorough test of both in my desktop and in my NAS. So I put it into my NAS, turned the NAS on, and then set up the drive as a new drive, as I showed you in part 3 of this series. So I'd set it all up, I'd got it on the network as just a drive that I could transfer data to and store files on there as I wanted, and it seemed to work fine. Again, I didn't like put any backup data or irreplaceable data on there. I just created a few test folders and threw some portable apps on the hard drive, and just to really put something on the drive just to test it out, and it seemed to work fine. So at night, like I normally do, I turn the NAS off because it's only me that accesses the NAS. It's got no need to be on 24/7, so at night I turn it off because no one's going to be using it, and then turn it back on in the morning. So I went through that process, and then the following morning when I turned it on, it said the partition that was on this drive, the Seagate drive, had failed. But the DSM, I've got a Synology NAS, as you should know. This is the fourth part of that NAS upgrade series. It's got like some built-in feature to where it can rebuild failed partitions. So I went about rebuilding the partition, and once the partition had been rebuilt, it worked fine and I could access it from my desktop and from my laptop. So I left the drive in my NAS for a few more days, turning the NAS off at night and turning it back on in the morning, and it never failed on me again. So that one time the partition failed on me, but once it was rebuilt, it didn't fail on me again. So while I can say that this hard drive does technically work as a hard drive and as a storage device, but purely based on my experiences of using the drive, the noises it was making, and of course that one occasion where the partition did fail in the NAS, I'm not going to be using it because of those reasons, and also the fact that it is 10 approaching 11 years old. I'm not going to use a drive, and if anyone watching this has a hard drive that is in a similar state to that hard drive, I would also recommend that you don't use that hard drive and you go and buy a new one if you are in need of a hard drive. So what I'm going to be doing with this hard drive, as I've already said, I'm not going to be using it. I'm just simply going to put it back in its little container thing here that it came in, and just go and put it away in the storage box that I keep all my hardware from my computer and stuff inside. And the final thing that I discovered is that if you shake the drive, it rattles. Now, I have said it before and I will say it again. If you have a working drive, a working hard drive that has data on that's of any value to you, never shake the drive. Don't do what I'm about to do with this one. But as I've already told you, I'm not going to be using this one, so I'm not really bothered what happens with it, to be honest. But yeah, if I shake the drive, you can hear it rattle. So yeah, I'm guessing what's rattling is the read-write header that's like bouncing back and forth, even though it should be in its park position. But I guess something regarding the parking mechanism isn't keeping it where it should be, and as a result it's just loose and goes back and forth when you shake it. I'm guessing that could be the issue, but to be honest, I'm not sure. Even though I'm not going to use a drive, I'm not going to bother tearing it down because I have already done a teardown of a hard drive on this channel. And for all I'm aware, back in 2007 when this hard drive was manufactured, the parking mechanism may not have even been like part of a hard drive back then, but I suspect it would have been part of a hard drive. But if it is, it doesn't really keep the read-write header parked, as you can hear. So that's just another little thing that I discovered about the hard drive. It actually rattles, which you don't want a hard drive to do that. But that has been it for this video. I have gone over this drive, done speed tests, I've done stability tests and general usage tests, and aside from that one time where the partition failed, it seems to work fine as a drive. But as I've already said, don't drop a hard drive, okay? That one's 10 years old, I'm not going to use it, so I'm not really that bothered that it dropped it. While it was kind of the seller to add the drive in with the NAS as like part of a bundle deal, due to the age and state of the drive and the noises it's making, I am not going to be using the drive for anything, and that's going to be it for this video. So if you enjoyed the video, give it a like. If you didn't, dislike it, and consider subscribing to see future videos such as this that regard around technology and whatever else I decide to bring to the channel. But that's it for this video, so thank you for watching. So I went about rebuilding the partition, and once what the hell just happened?